This Sunday, as almost 1 billion Christians go to church, it's very real to them. And that's why we're playing Handel's Messiah. Play it up a little bit. Tonight, as I would say, hundreds of thousands of religious Jews, maybe even millions, including fallen Jews, lapsed Jews, who think it's about bagels and lox or matzah once a year, they recognize that they have a religion. It's all a joke to them. They don't believe that old stuff about a God. No God in heaven. It's a culture. It's an ethical culture. Heard that about Judaism. It's just an ethical culture. Well, it isn't just an ethical culture. It's the foundation of Western civilization, but I'm not going to go into that right now. I'm in one of my states of mind where I could be on the radio for 5 to 8 hours. I can do a Castro tonight. I could speak to 1 million people, 3 million people, and I could speak until midnight tonight in the mood I'm in. As you know, I'm very slow-moving today. You hear it? So far, there's been no ups and downs. It's been very slow the first hour. Very to the point, but very, very slow. Because I am moving slowly on purpose. Because about what I'm about to tell you is probably my best insight of a long time. I told you that we had the bravest woman in the world on this show last week, named Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who wrote a book called Heretic, Why Islam Needs a Reformation Now. And we'll all agree, yes, radical Islam needs a reformation now if the world is to survive. Because Islam is on a collision course with every other person on the planet, Muslims included. And so that's why she wrote that book. Oh, yeah, we can agree they need a reformation. But I would argue that Christians need another reformation, and Jews in particular need another reformation. I don't know that I've read this anywhere. I haven't seen it on a blog. I haven't read it anywhere. So I'll give you an original savage insight. Sometimes I have the prophetic gene kick in, and it's going to kick in right now. Liberal Jews need a reformation right now because they have a sense of entitlement based upon falsehoods. Write it down if you don't like it and send it to the Anti-Defamation League. I'd be very happy to argue with all of the professional Jews in the ADL. But let's put that aside for the minute. Let's take the mythology of Passover, for example. And mythology of Passover says that the firstborn was being slain. And in Passover, the ritual is that the Jews' first sons were saved. The Jews put blood on their doorposts, and the Lord passed over the door and did not allow the destroyer to enter their houses to strike them. And so allegedly the story is, the Lord slew every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh seated on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the cattle. Pharaoh arose in the night, and he and all the servants of the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was no house where there was not someone dead. And he called for Moses and Aaron in the night and said, Get up and go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel. God said, Go serve the Lord as you said, take also your flocks and your herds as you said, and go and bless me also. And so the Egyptians pushed the Jews to get out of the land in haste. They said, Get out or you'll all be dead. The Egyptians told the Jews to leave, or all the Egyptians feared they would die. Did you know that part of the story? The Egyptians actually got along with the Jews. And so the people took their dough before it was leavened. They took it with them, and they wrapped it up in the clothing on their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the instruction of Moses. And they borrowed from the Egyptians objects of silver and objects of gold and clothing. You see, at that time the Lord disposed the Egyptians favorably toward the people, and they lent them. And then the Jews emptied out of Egypt. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Sukkot, about 600,000 men on foot, aside from children. And a great mixed multitude went up with them, and sheep and cattle, livestock, and they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had taken out of Egypt. For it did not become leavened because they were driven out of Egypt and could not delay. Nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. And the time which the children of Israel sojourned in Egypt was 430 years. And it was at the end of the 430 years, it was on the very same day, all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. It was a night of watching to the Lord for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. And so that is the mythology. And Jews in America and in other countries grew up on the mythology that simply because they were Jewish, they were entitled in some way. They were somehow blessed. They were the chosen people. And they were better than everybody else. I know people don't want to hear this. I know it's very controversial. And I know Jews are going to get mad at me. But so what? Get mad at me. See if I care. This sense of being special, the sense of being the chosen people has gotten the Jews in a lot of trouble. It has brought about a lot of resentment from non-Jews. It's also enabled Jews to have a false sense of security. That somehow, just because they're the chosen people, oh, God will always look over them. Well, how'd that work out in Europe in the late 30s and 40s? Didn't work out very well. They threw them all in the oven. All the children, the firstborn, the secondborn, the thirdborn, the fourthborn, thrown in the oven. It didn't matter. And so I say the Jews need a reformation right now, to stop walking around with their head in the clouds and start living in the real world, where there are very real people who want them dead, want them off the planet, want them mort, gone, finished, kaput. And the only friends they have in the world are the Orthodox Christians. The only friends they have in the world are the fundamentalist Christians who the Larry Davids of the world sneer at, make movies about, mock, ridicule. The Harvey Weinsteins, the Geffens, the Katzenbergs. Every movie is a mockery of Christianity. Wherever they can get away with it, they stick a finger in the eye of the only people on earth who would protect the Jews and have protected Jews and liberated the Jews, by the way, from the concentration camps in World War II, in case you don't know your modern history. So there's a lot to be said about a reformation in Judaism in order to live in the real world. But what about the Christian religion? Why do I say the Christians need a reformation? Didn't they have a reformation in the Middle Ages? Yes, they did. But that was a long time ago. That was then, this is now. Christianity has so devolved into a form of social liberalism that it's no longer a functioning religion in the world in which we live, in the sense that a religion must empower a people for survival. Christianity is not that empowering for the Christian people. Oh, they have faith, and they have faith in God, and that's wonderful. But it's not the survival tool for the 21st century that it must become. And that's why I say that the reformation that Christianity must go through is along the lines of a political Islam. We must have a politicized Christianity in order for Christianity to survive at all. You say, how could you do that? We live in a nation that is not a theocracy. It's a secular nation. And there's a wall separating church from state. Is there a wall separating church from state when Obama has compromised the church to the extent that it's become a tool of his federal government with regard to flooding America with illegal aliens by buying them off with huge sums of money in order to, quote, resettle illegal aliens in America? Didn't we read about the Baptist Family Services getting something like $300 million or more to bring them in over the summer? How about the Catholic Family Services? How about all the other Christian sects that are rolling in dough like pigs in mud? Are they not acting politically? You say, well, yeah, they are, but they're not really doing it through the church. No, they're not. They set up sub-organizations that are not churches. It's not called a Baptist church. It's called the Baptist Family Services. That's the way the game is played. And so you understand what's going on. The churches have been compromised through money, through federal money. And Christianity, therefore, needs a reformation to survive. For the Christians to survive in a world of militant Islam, we must have a militant Christianity arise in this world. We must have a militant Christianity, throwing off the mythology of turning the other cheek, for Christians to survive. Because look at the Middle East. Tell me what turning the other cheek has gotten the Christians in Iraq. Tell me what turning the cheek has gotten the Christians in Syria. Wherever you look, turning the other cheek has gotten them a grave, or has to have them set on fire. Their heads cut off. The Coptic Christians, their heads were cut off, if you forgot, by your friends in ISIS. Only a militant Christianity can survive the 21st century. Only a more militant Judaism can survive the 21st century. And you must fight fire with fire. Our militancy must replace a passivity.